In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of a short story through to line edits of a full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 $3 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls? Start saving thousands in interest and fees and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
Podcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. Businessman there, drink my wine. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm George Landreth. I'm the president of Frontiers of Freedom Foundation. That's part of the vast right-wing conspiracy that Hillary warned you about. More particularly, she probably warned her leftist friends about. And I am joined today, because Rick is not with us, actually. I am joined by another friend of the Conservative Commandos radio program. Many of you will know who he is, J.D. Manier. It's great to have you with us, J.D.
Oh, it's great to do a show with you, George. Appreciate it so much.
Absolutely. Well, we're coming to you live from WNJC in Philadelphia, 1360, and, of course, around the globe on the Internet. You can catch us at such places as American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .coms. Let's jump right into some important stuff. JD, I think I don't know if you read in the news or heard in the news about this student in student government at the University of Houston. She was the vice president of the student body, and she was suspended for 50 days and ordered to attend diversity seminars and a bunch of other stuff, which I'll get into. It reads like an inquisition. The only thing it lacks is they don't make her be strapped to a rack and stretch her or anything like that, but it gets pretty close. Wow. But apparently, it's crazy stuff. But this is what happened. She apparently, shortly after the Dallas 5 officers were killed in that slang, she posted on Facebook and she said, "Forget Black Lives Matter, more like all lives matter." And she later deleted the statement because I guess she got a lot of complaints from fellow students at the University of Houston. I hope our listeners are listening, because this might be a place you don't want to send your children, it sounds like. But it was labeled offensive and hateful, and so this is what they did to her.
So, and let's just talk about kind of the thought place. So this is what they did. 50-day suspension in which she does not get her stipend as the vice president of the student body, a requirement to attend a 3-day diversity workshop, a requirement to attend University of Houston cultural events, one each month from September through March, an order to write a letter of reflection on how harmful her actions were to the student body and how she impacted the student body, and an order to put on a public presentation on September 28th detailing, quote, the knowledge she has gained about cultural issues facing our society, end quote. And then, of course, if she refuses to do any of these things, then she'll be kicked out of the student government entirely.
That is unbelievable. There you go. There's a Salem witch trial, if I ever heard one, and it's like denying gravity. She said all lives matter. If I'm a professor, I give her an A+ on that. If it's an ethics course, that's amazing. And like you and I talked earlier, it reminds me of what they did to Dinesh D'Souza.
Absolutely.
This is unbelievable. In the city of Houston, boasting a lesbian mayor, Houston must like to get into these kind of inquisitions, because that's exactly what the mayor of Houston did a while back to prominent pastors down there that draw the ire of everybody here in America. That's amazing, George.
Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of stuff that gives universities a bad name. I don't want to sound like I'm against going to school, because I think obviously education is a good thing, but at some point we have to get back control of our educational institutions, because this doesn't teach anybody the sorts of lessons that ought to be taught. And I would argue that these are actually dangerous lessons. I mean, this sounds like Gestapo tactics to me. It's crazy stuff, but I guess parents will have to make their own mind when they start writing out tuition checks as to where they're going to write them to. But I know my kid said, Dad, I'm going to University of Houston. I'd say, not anymore, son. Not anymore, daughter. We'll find another school. But
that is horrific, and I think the alums of the University of Houston should back this young lady, and so should everyone else. Can we get her on the show to tell the story?
That would be interesting. It might be detrimental to her, because supposedly she's supposed to make public statements about how harmful what she. In other words, she has to basically hand them her own head on a platter. Otherwise, they're going to kick her out, which is crazy. But who knows? I'd love to hear her side of the story and have her explain what's going on. But who knows? Maybe it gets her kicked out of school. It's it's the Gestapo at work. The other thing we ought to do. I'm sorry, you were going to say something on this one?
Well, all lives matter. That is her statement. All lives matter. How could anyone come against that?
Right, and they always try to argue that it's some sort of dog whistle, that you're saying that their lives don't matter. But when people have been saying it of late, they're making it very clear. All the lives matter. If you are a person of color, if you're not a person of color, if you're a person wearing a blue uniform, all of these lives matter. Everyone. We don't want to be killing people because it's sport or it's fun, or just because we're upset or we had a bad day. That's not a bad message. And there's no code in there. There's no dog whistles in there. That's just saying, as a Western society, we value human life, and we ought not be taking it. Anyhow, our Constitution talks about you can't deprive someone of their life, liberty, or property without due process. And I think all lives matter is probably just an affirmation in a quick-hand way of saying that.
Yeah. Speaking about founding documents of this country, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal under God. I mean, the word all appears quite a bit in our founding documents. That is what we're all about. And yet they pull up the political correctness that would make Stalin proud, or Pol Pot, or Hitler proud. Unbelievable.
Well, I thought maybe we should switch gears, because Hillary has given us a lot to talk about. And with the convention last week, she spoke Thursday night. So on this show on Thursday, at least the one I do, I was talked about kind of some of the things she might talk about and say. But now we have what she did say, and over the weekend, some of her crazy stories and stuff. But before we go to that, I thought real quickly I'd like to take a personal moment just to give a shout out to my mother, because yesterday was her birthday, and I have an awesome mom, and so who can't like moms? And of course, I really like my mom, so I figured our listeners wouldn't object me just giving my mom a quick shout out. Happy birthday, Mom! You're the best. And I wasn't in town yesterday. I'm out of town, so I didn't get to tell her that voice to voice, and now I did. So anyhow, let's jump into Hillary.
I'll say happy birthday for your mom too. That's wonderful. Hey, George, I waited and waited for some kind of policy statements from Hillary's mouth last Thursday night, and we didn't get anything of substance until the tail end. And I took voluminous notes, bullet point, when she started talking about economics. I go, oh, here we go. But yesterday I talked to Rick Trader about this same issue. Hillary, she thought the best thing to improve our economy and produce growth, she started out saying, well, we got to have liberal judges.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course.
Wow.
Because liberal judges create lots of jobs.
You're right. But that was her very first...
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting idea because, they don't want to admit. When you talk to a liberal about what they're going to do to create jobs, Hillary's added to the list, apparently, liberal judges. But it used to be just, government spending. And I always wondered to myself, well, why is government spending so much better than, say, when you and I spend? Because when they take our money from us and then we don't have as much money, we can't spend it, and then they spend it for us. And then supposedly their spending creates jobs, but mine's just a big waste of money. And, that's their theory. Their theory is always that government spending creates jobs. But when J.D. and George spend money, no jobs are ever created when we spend money, just when they do. And it's a very frustrating thing. But she's added to the list, the liberal judges. Did she bother explaining? I listened to the speech, and I don't recall her explaining how it was one more liberal judge is going to get jobs for all of our unemployed and underemployed Americans.
Well, I wrote down everything, and it's astonishing her lack. I tweeted out, she doesn't even have a freshman in college understanding of macroeconomics with that speech. But I think we may be up against a break, George.
Yep, you're right. We are up against a break. So why don't I take us to a quick break, and we will be back. We'll have a lot more Hillary talk, not just the nonsense, but some of the lies as well. And JD and I'll have a lot more to say, and we've got some great guests coming up as well. So we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360. That's our flagship station in Philadelphia, and, of course, around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM/FM 24/7, all .coms. Don't go away. JD and I'll be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who are directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back. This is George Landreth and J.D. Manier, and you're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio program. Greetings. We're glad to have you back. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. In the afternoons at 1, you can log into, at 9, you can log into High Plains Daily News, and at midnight, you can log on to redstatetalkradio.com. And, of course, with a phone and this number, 832-999-1199, you can always catch us. So please do that. We will always like you listening to us a second time if you want, or if you miss a program, that's the way to catch us. Now, J.D., we were talking about Hillary's speech, and you gave us a little tease on one of her economic, her economic package, as it were. America's in a malaise. It's got problems. Economically, I'm your candidate. I'm going to fix it. And out of the box, she says economics, new liberal judges. Did she give us anything else? Let's hear. Maybe that was a slow start for her. Did it get better? Or
Oh, it's amazing. And that's how she precursored her tail end of the speech. Remember, she had made no policy statements whatsoever. It was just Trump bashing and preaching to the liberal choir. But, yeah, number 2, save our planet, green energy. What say you? We haven't seen any real jobs come out of the Obama green energy mindset and everything that he's foisted on America for the last 7.5 years. Why do we think this is going to improve with Hillary?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me that they're acting as if that somehow green energy is going to help us a bunch because, they've been saying for decades. I mean, Al Gore used to preach this stuff that was going to create lots of jobs for us. And expensive energy doesn't create jobs, and that's what they keep saying.
Yeah,
but,
I think
it just doesn't work.
She touted the EPA as well in that speech and green energy, but I know the American people got the gist. Those who had ears to hear, but and then she said, "Oh yeah, we're going to have amnesty for illegals."
That'll help the economy too, of course. Lots of new jobs will be created with amnesty. I agree. That's, of course, if liberal judges are going to create jobs, there's no doubt that amnesty will create jobs as well.
Then she went straight into.
I hope people can catch the sarcasm in my voice.
Well, yeah. Then she's ready. She hit it right off. Then she said, "Profit sharing. We've got to roll that back. That's the problem in America. We have too much profit.
Too much
sharing.
Profit sharing."
Yeah, with CEOs, too much profit sharing.
Yeah, profits are a bad thing. It always cracks me up. I don't know if you remember the days when they were bemoaning all the American corporations that had high profits and were doing really well, and they badmouthed them and tore them down and acted as bad. And then the economy went south, and all these companies weren't making money, and they were all doing poorly. And then they badmouthed them again. And it's kind of like, which would you like them to do? Make money or not make money? I actually like it when corporations make money. because that means that they're doing well, so they're going to be hiring and they're going to be expanding their operations. When their stock prices are collapsing and they're losing money, they tend to let people go and reorganize and et cetera. To a liberal, none of that makes any sense. They just, corporations are bad. Therefore, when they make money, that's bad. When they lose money, that's bad. But there's never any happy medium for them.
Well, and listen to the next one. Keep in mind, 95 million Americans don't have work. And this is the worst growth we've ever had under any president. No president in America, all 43 prior presidents, always at least achieved 3% growth. But Obama never had. And in last quarter, the growth GDP was 1.2%. Prior to that, it was 0.8 of 1% the first quarter. Terribly anemic. And so what are they going to foist on us? Hillary says, raise that minimum wage. Raise the minimum wage.
Because that will create jobs, too.
And take it away, especially from the people that can't afford it. The 50% black unemployment youth and 25%, especially Chicago, Obama's Chicago, it's 25, 26, 30% unemployment there on the South Side. And they're just going to increase more people on the government rolls because they're going to take away jobs with this increase in the minimum wage.
Well, you already see it happening when you go into restaurants and they have kiosks where you can order your food using essentially like a computer or an iPad or something, and those are cheaper than people. So eventually what they're going to do is price the people out of all the work, and you're going to have some sort of PhD to get a job because everybody else's job is being performed by a machine. It's a weird world in which they think about. Because on the one hand, as companies shift to robots or to kiosks for ordering and things like that, they'll criticize the companies for getting rid of the jobs, not realizing, of course, that their policies, things like Obamacare and higher minimum wages, have nixed out all those jobs.
Well, you brought me right to the next bullet point in her speech. Expand health care, expand Obamacare.
And that's going to create more jobs too, huh?
Yeah. You can keep your doctor. And it's going to be $2,500 cheaper and all those other lies that Obama spewed out.
I've got one.
Huge job killer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what I think is funny is this is, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Maybe Hillary's economic plan should be if you like your job, you can keep your job. On the theory that she means that every bit as much as Barack Obama meant it when he said we could keep our doctor.
She'll be disastrous for the economy. I mean, and that's what I said yesterday, that this is not even a freshman in college's understanding of what's going on here. Of course, you got to remember, Hillary hasn't driven a car since 1996, and she has never had a job, a real job. She's always been on the government dole. Or in politics. So here we go. Now she copies, we talked with this yesterday with Rick, she copies Donald Trump. And she says, I'm going to stand up to China for jobs. All right.
Okay.
How are you going to stand up to China? Are you first going to ask them for millions of dollars to go into the Clinton Foundation before you tear into them? How are you going to do this, Hillary?
Well, what's funny is when she was Secretary of State, she had the opportunity to stand up to somebody. And I don't recall seeing that happen. What I saw happen was they tried to reset with Russia, which only signaled to Russia that we were weak, and they've become increasingly provocative. And you go around the globe, strength. Where was she exhibiting all this strength that she's now claiming she'll exhibit as president?
Oh, I can't recall any time that her geopolitics has produced anything favorable those years she was Secretary of State. Point to me one success. I mean, Hannity says that on his show all the time. Hey, can you just point to one success? She's supposed to be, the greatest woman in the world. I mean, that's what her husband said at the convention. And then you had to ask, well, if she's such a superwoman, why did you cheat on her so many times? I mean, she's supposed to be so great. Like, but no, that.
Well, also, he referred to her as the greatest change agent he's ever known. And I'm like, what has she ever changed for the good? I mean, she was Secretary of State. She had a real chance to do that. She was a senator from New York. She didn't. There's not a single accomplishment while she was in the Senate. So if she's able to change things, show me the evidence. I mean,
hey, didn't she got the bill to name a couple post offices? And hey, didn't she get a bill in there to commemorate Woodstock? Wasn't that one of her great achievements?
Oh, yeah.
Senator from New York.
That's change you can believe in.
Hey,
looks
she
like
started talking about Social Security. We're up against another hard break, I think, pretty soon. But she wants to expand Social Security. Well, that's, expand it. I mean, we're not even, the people I know haven't had any Social Security increases, COLAs, or anything for years and years and years. So that doesn't produce jobs, but, more of the same from Hillary.
Yeah. This is an interesting economic package. We are coming to you live. This is George Landreth with J.D. Manier. You are listening to Conservative Commandos radio program on the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're in their studios, WNJC 1360. That's our flagship station in Philadelphia. And, of course, we're coming to you from around the world on the Internet. Al Gore's amazing Internet, I might add, on such sites as American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .coms. Don't go away. JD and I will be right back.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions.
We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who are directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0000. 1096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back. This is George Landreth and J.D. Manier, your host today for the Conservative Commandos radio program. And, of course, Rick Trader is not here today, but is here with us in spirit, of course. Now, if you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our websites. You can look at ccrsnetwork.com or ccrshow.com. And, of course, you can also, in afternoons, you can log into roarradio.net. At night at 9, you can log on to highplainsdailynews.com, and at midnight, you can log on to redstatetalkradio.com. And, of course, now with this number and your phone, you can always listen to Conservative Commandos live, 832-999-1199. Well, J.D., we've been talking about Hillary Clinton's economic program, which I think I am going to dub it the "If you like your job, you can keep your job" program. What other goodies does she have in her goodie bag to create lots of jobs for Americans? She's got liberal judges, higher minimum wage, more Obamacare. I haven't heard anything that's going to create jobs. What I hear is job killers. Is there any good news in this, or is it just more bad news?
Yeah, I think it's bad news. I hate to say it, but we've got a few more. So to spin off on Obamacare, she wants to expand women's health care.
What does that mean, expand women's health care? I'm trying to. What is that?
Probably
Just cover more things.
Subsidizing birth control meds and abortions. Who knows what she's got in her mind? But I don't see that helping grow the economy. I don't see that helping replace the 95 million Americans who are without jobs right now. I got to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're hard pressed to hire 95 million Americans to perform more abortions, if that's what her plan is. I mean, I'm hoping we can, put ourselves to better purposes than that.
And then she got on a roll with women. Then she said she wants equal pay. So she rolls out basically the ERA amendment style stuff.
Now, isn't that the law currently? I'm pretty sure there's already a law in the books that requires equal pay. Am I incorrect on that? I mean,
you're
obviously
right.
And that's been around, I think, since like the 1970s or 60s. It's been a long time.
But that's what the Democrats, especially Hillary, loves to do. We have a lot of gun laws. We have a lot of immigration laws. We're not abiding by them. So instead of saying, hey, let's just live up to our laws, no, they just want to expand and expand and expand.
Most of the time I've seen their attempts to enforce or to improve equal pay provisions, all they really do is ensure that trial lawyers have lots of money.
Yes.
So I guess if you're a woman trial lawyer, that's helpful.
Yeah, that's true. You're going to double bless there in Hillary's world. That's a good point, George. Hey, then she goes right into calling for an investment. Well, you know what she's talking about is Democrat stimulus package number 3. Obama gave us 1 and 2, which got us to the point.
The first 2 did really well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Lots of jobs created in those babies.
Mm-hmm. She's ready to triple down. This will be number 3 if she gets her way.
Yeah, as I recall, he concluded the jobs weren't as shovel ready as he'd originally thought, which of course was a lie. Basically, it was just a bunch of sops to his union buddies in different capacities. A handout. It's anyhow. So again,
absolutely patronage for Democrats. I mean, just like Chicago Mayor Daley and what they're so used to, where Obama comes from. That's what the stimulus package was. All in the name of investing in America. Yeah, and investing in the Democrat Party is basically what they have tried to do.
There's got to be some good news in there somewhere. Does she have anything that might create more jobs? Did she ever mention reducing taxes, for example? Did she ever? Because almost everyone agrees that our tax rates are too high, and that we compare our business tax rates to other countries, our businesses are disadvantaged. She didn't mention that at all.
She didn't, but I watched her in a speech yesterday make a major gap, and in that crowd, and I think it was in Nebraska, nobody really saw what was happening, and she said Donald Trump is going to he's going to cut taxes for the super wealthy. She goes, well, I won't do that. And then she said, I'm going to raise taxes on the middle class. Came right out of her mouth. And,
funny.
Watched that on Fox News this morning. But, yeah, that's a Freudian slip. That's what's in her mind. That's
exactly.
Really
well, it's interesting that the things that most experts will tell you is that we have to do some tax reforms so that we're more competitive internationally on taxes. We need to do some regulatory reforms so that we're more competitive there. We don't burden our companies so much. Did she mention that at all?
No.
Any regulatory reform?
But she did offer free college.
Free college? Okay. So you can send your kids for free to have them kick your kids out of school for saying all lives matter.
That's a good point down in Houston. That's true.
Yeah. Great. Again, I'm still not sure where the jobs come from and all that. I mean, I understand that getting a good education makes you essentially eligible for more jobs out there. But the reality is we live in an economy in which we're not creating jobs. So that's why we have people with advanced degrees who are working at Walmart right now. It's not because that's all they're qualified to do. It's because there just aren't many jobs. And so, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think education is awesome. And I'm not going to talk down education at all. But it's not a job creator. It's something that helps you qualify for jobs that may or may not be out there available for you. But in a world in which there just simply aren't many jobs, promising to educate more people just means you're going to have more people with unemployed with advanced degrees. They got to do something to create jobs, actually, so that people can show up and turn in the application and say, I'd like to have this job. And I haven't heard a single thing that you said, not to beat up on you. I know you're just a messenger. But good grief, come on. She's supposed to be the most qualified woman in the world, most qualified person in the world, we were told. Nobody knows and has the experience that she has. And yet, if I were an economics professor and she were taking an Econ 110 class from me, a 100-level class on economics and how to strengthen economy, if these are the answers she gave me, I'd give her an F.
No doubt. Do not pass go. Do not even pass your class. Go back to remedial training, Hillary. But now she said she wants to relax credit, but she didn't specify where in the housing and mortgage industry, in the SBA. I don't know, but she wants to relax credit. That may be good. That may be bad. She didn't get specific. That's a potential maybe. We didn't really find out what she was talking there. Last thing that I wrote down: subsidized childcare. Here we go. Going to create a lot of jobs in your mind, George?
Well, I mean, that's great if you're a mom and you want a job and you need someone to help you take care of your kids. But if there are no jobs for you, again, she doesn't seem to understand the problem. The problem is there aren't jobs, and she keeps, she's just making up benefits to give people. But these benefits don't actually create jobs. They may make it easier on people who have them, but for those who don't, too darn mad. You're just, out in the cold. This is an interesting program. It looks like we're up against the break again, so we probably need to take a quick commercial break. We will be back momentarily, but I just want to let you all know that that you can always, when you listen into the Conservative Commandos, you can of course hear us not only here on WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, but around the internet. AmericanPatriotsBroadcasting.com, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM/FM 24/7, all .coms. Don't go away. JD Manier and I will be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who are directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity, since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
It's good to have you back. This is George Landreth with J.D. Manier, and you're listening to Conservative Commando's radio program on WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, and, of course, around the globe on the Internet. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's shows, you can check out our websites, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. And at 1 o'clock in the afternoons, you can always log on to roarradio.net. At 9 p.m., you can log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And at midnight, you can log on to redstatetalkradio.com. And with a phone in this number, 832-999-1199, you can always listen to us live. Just your phone, no other technology. Couldn't be simpler. Well, J.D., we've got some good guests coming up today. I thought maybe I would introduce or just kind of review with our listeners the first guest. His name is Peter Roth. He is a writer for U.S. News and World Report. He's also been he's actually an editor there. He's also a senior fellow at Frontiers of Freedom, and he has been a long-time political writer and activist. He has worked for GOPAC when Newt Gingrich was in charge of it. He has worked in the Bush administration. He's very knowledgeable, and we'll have him. He'll talk to us at least some about kind of what Trump's up to and how his campaign is going, and kind of what he'll need to do to make sure he wins, because there's no doubt that Hillary winning will be a catastrophe. But it'll be a very interesting conversation. Peter's very well read. He's kind of got an encyclopedic mind, and he'll be highly entertaining. Who do you have come up at 4:35?
Well, I have Dr. Samuel Gregg. He's a research director at the Acton Institute, and he has written and spoken extensively on questions of political economy, economic history, ethics and finance, natural law theory. He's a doctor of philosophy with a degree in moral philosophy and political economy from Oxford University. Well, he's written an article that says, "No, Pope Francis, the economy doesn't cause terrorism." We're going to delve into that issue with him.
That sounds very interesting. We've been talking about Hillary's economic program, or the lack thereof. I call it the "if you like your job, you can keep your job" program. A little tongue-in-cheek, because that was the promise that Barack made to us when he was selling us the bill of goods on Obamacare. Told us we could keep our health plan if we liked our health plan. For the record, mine was canceled. That turned out not to be true for my family and I. If he told people if they liked their doctor, they could keep the doctor. That turned out to also be not true for many, many, many Americans. So I suspect that Hillary's promise that if you like your job, you can keep it is probably not true as well. But maybe we could go and talk a little bit about, I thought was interesting, was some of the lies that she told.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple. I'll mention maybe two, and you can either bounce some ideas off those, or if you have some other ones that stood out to you. One of them that stood out to me was her New Bedford story about how she basically was this ideological, idealistic lost grad that decided, I don't want to work for a big firm. I want to do public service. And so she joined the Children's Defense Fund, omitting an important fact that makes that story a lie.
It sure was. That's interesting, George. I'm reading that right from one of the radio talk show hosts named Chris McCarthy up there in Boston, and he said that's a huge whopper. And her words were, "I remember meeting a young girl in a wheelchair on a small back porch of her house. She told me how badly she wanted to go to school. It just didn't seem possible in those days." And so the tears, started to swell in her eyes. But here comes Hillary to the rescue. Well, there was a mayor of New Bedford back then. His name was John Markey. He's 81 years old. He's a lifetime Democrat. And he said, that's not true. He said, we had budgets for vans with drivers and provided services to students with disabilities back then. He named it. It was Tremblay Bus. They picked them up and dropped them off at their home. He said, now they may not have been able to go to the local neighborhood school, depending on whether or not the schools were accessible for wheelchairs, and may have had to drive uptown or somewhere else, but they had school, and it accommodated handicapped students in wheelchairs. So there Hillary goes again, spinning stuff that's not actually factual.
Absolutely. And the other lie in there, of course, is that she did actually accept a job with a big law firm. It was a Washington, D.C. law firm, if I recall. And, of course, the reason why she didn't keep that job is because she failed the bar exam. And
right.
So they let her go. And so that's when she then went. So they make it sound like there's this altruistic choice that she chose. She didn't want to work for some big law firm and make big money. That was not interesting to her at all. Well, the truth of the matter was she failed the bar exam. So I mean, this is the kind of stuff you get out of Hillary that cracks me up. Now, outside of her, I thought the biggest whopper, though, she told us right after the convention. She was on with Chris Wallace on Sunday on Fox News, and that's where she was asked about James Comey, the director of the FBI's statements about her handling of things, and Wallace said, after a long investigation, FBI Director James Comey said none of those things that you told the American public were true. And this is what she said. Chris, that's not what I heard Director Comey say, and I thank you for giving the opportunity to, in my view, clarify these things. And then she goes on to say that he said my answers were truthful and that what I've said is consistent with what I told the American people. Like, what a load of hooey.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so false and so dishonest that even the Washington Post, the liberal Washington Post that daily carries water for Hillary Clinton, gave it its highest possible rating online. 4 Pinocchios.
Yeah, we heard, I mean, it was pretty simple and straightforward. Trey Gowdy just said, did you have multiple servers? And then Comey answers, yes. And he just went down the list. She is a pathological liar. I think she gets that from her husband, Bill, it sounds like to me. When, you know, I never had sex with that woman, and how many other lies he told. Unbelievable. You know what comes to my mind, George, was Dick Morris pointing out that, you know, he was with the Clintons, had inside knowledge. He was with them all the time. And he said, wait a minute. He said, Hillary had a nanny. And this story about how she was there for Chelsea every step of her way, and as a young girl and in a teen, he goes, Hillary wasn't at all those soccer games. The nanny took care of Chelsea. So I thought that was very interesting, too. Another lie. And I just ask you, George, I thought Chelsea was low energy, to borrow a phrase from Donald Trump. But what say you on that? Compared to the Trump kids, Chelsea just wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think most people said that that's not her forte, public speaking, and after seeing her do so, I would say I agree. She didn't do a bad job, but it was nothing really special. It was kind of a pedestrian performance. I think it was she spoke so slowly, I wasn't sure if, you know, I was trying to figure out why. Was she trying to fill the time, or it was just very odd? But I thought she was trying to portray her mother in, you know, kind of like my mom's a human. She's not, you know, she's not Darth Vader, and you know, fine. I didn't. I just thought it was, you know, like you said, low energy.
But we've heard so many stories from Hillary. You know, she lands and the bullets are flying, and she has her head down with such courage, and you know, so much stuff like that. It's been going on for years. Do the American people want 4 more years of pathological lying and a reduced economy, and the Supreme Court justice that made up of the Sotomayors and the Ginsburgs of the world? Is that what we need? I'd say not.
Right. Yeah, and I'm with you on that. I mean, that's a frustrating option to think of, that she's going to give us the third and arguably the fourth terms of Barack Obama. I can't think of too many people who think this has been going well. This is what they'd like to see continued. I know a lot of people who liked and voted for Barack Obama, but most of them are now saying we probably need a change. This isn't really working that well for us. And I don't see a lot of people kind of clamoring for, 4 more years. That's not the thing they're going to be chanting when they go to the polls.
I'm getting off of Hillary just a little bit, but I'll tell you this: Khazar Khan. We had Ted Schubert on the show with Rick yesterday, and I'll tell you, it's blowing up in Hillary's face. I mean, the law firm he worked for did the taxes for the Clintons, bundled lots of money to the Clinton Foundation, helped and was retained through the rest of this year with the Saudi royals. And there's a lot of scandals going on. Even the email scandals come back to Hillary through Khazar Khan and the law firm that he worked for, because they created a patent for some software to keep spam off of those servers, and it's stinking to high heaven. Of course, Khazar Khan, he took down his website as people started to study what's going on there. It's pay to play. A family could come in with Khazar Khan, $500,000, which the Saudi royals have that money pretty easily. They could come in and basically get citizenship and reside here in America. And we've seen Chuck Grassley, Iowa senator, a Republican. He's so upset with and sees so much corruption in the EB-2 immigration visas that are going out now, the E2, EB-5 visas. I've got to apologize on that. But it's allowing wealthy foreigners to buy residency here. So this stuff that was portrayed to us, it just seemed to me made for Hollywood. Of course, Hollywood liberals are the ones who back Clinton and the Democrats. But that's what I saw up there. Very phony, not real.
That's for sure. Phony is a good word to describe it all. Either lies or phony. But with that, we've got to take a break. We're at the top of the hour. We are coming to you live, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network at WNJC 1360. That's our flagship station in Philadelphia, and of course around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .coms. Don't go away. JD and I will be right back with our guests.
Crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we're trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who are directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity, since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back. This is George Landreth with J.D. Manier. We, of course, are without Rick Trader today. You may be used to his voice. You won't hear it today, but of course he'll be right back. But today you've got JD and myself, and we've got our first guest here, Peter Roth. Before I introduce him, I just want to remind you, however, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, you can check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, ccrshow.com. You can also log in to roarradio.net in the afternoons after 1, after 9 o'clock in the evening, highplainsdailynews.com, and at midnight or after, you can log on to redstatetalkradio.com. And with this phone number and a phone, you can always listen to us live, 832-999-1199. Well, we have Peter Roth here with us. He is a good friend, but he is also an excellent writer, just a prolific, excellent writer. His resume will demonstrate that to you. He is at the U.S. News and World Report. He's a contributing editor. He's been, of course, a longtime observer of the Washington scene. He's been a senior political writer for United Press International. He's also written for a number of public policy groups, including the Asian Forum Japan, and he's a visiting scholar, and he's also at Frontiers of Freedom, where I am. He is a senior fellow. He is published widely and appears weekly on One America News and the Daily Ledger. Anyhow, you can follow him on Twitter at Peter Roth. That's R-O-F-F, Peter Roth. And he's always insightful and interesting. Welcome, Peter.
Hi.
We are glad to have you on the show.
I didn't get that you were talking about me.
Oh, of course. Who else? Well, Peter, you are a keen observer of politics, and we just had 2 conventions, and we've had, I guess, each convention had its bounce and its impact. You want to synthesize for us what we've seen and kind of what you think it means as we move forward?
Sure. Be happy to. Trump got the first bounce of any Republican since George Bush in 2000. And he was able to use that to get ahead of Hillary. And that lasted for about a week until the Democrats were done with their convention. And she got something of a bounce out of hers, in part because our friends whose job it is to filter things filtered out almost all the bad stuff after the first day or so. But largely because Trump, who likes to think of himself as a puncher, has turned himself into one of those clowns, inflatable clowns that has a bottom full of sand and you pop it in the nose and it falls over and bounces right back up. And he got himself dragged into a fight, as everyone now knows, with an immigration lawyer who's a Muslim who had a son killed in Iraq in 2004. And the American people do not like it when the rich and powerful beat up on Joe and Jane America. They just don't. It's distasteful. And so as a result, Clinton is pulling further ahead. She's still below 50 in most all of the critical swing states, and in the 5 or 6 recently traditionally Democratic states where Trump was thought to have a shot, because Trump allowed himself to be dragged off message. When you're running for president, the people that you should be talking harshly about need to be your opponent, senior leaders of your opponent's party, international bad actors, but not someone who comes from Main Street America. And so Trump is paying the price for this. And if he doesn't learn the lesson and doesn't get back onto key messages about border security and economic alienation and cutting taxes and making America great and growing the economy, then he is going to continue to fall behind. Because ultimately, and this is a truism no matter what you're running for, and I know, George, you've been a school board member and you ran for Congress. The people have to be able to see you doing the job you say you want. If you don't look presidential, if you don't act presidential, they won't see you as presidential, and they won't seriously consider you for the presidency. We have now a race in which two unelectable candidates are running against each other, and right now Trump is helping Clinton make him the more unelectable one, which is the only arrow she has in her quiver. If she cannot persuade people that she's the better alternative to Trump, not just equal, but the better alternative to Trump, then she is going down to defeat, and it will probably be a big one.
Well, I agree with your analysis. One of my frustrations in all of this is when he is talking about how he's going to be our voice, when he's talking about making America great again and talking about how he's going to get the economy rolling again, he's going to make sure that America's military is strong again, and he's not saying in that, of course, he's not cutting our military. He's cutting the civilian leaders of the last 8 years who have bled the military, not funded them properly, and left them without the proper tools in their toolbox to do everything that they should do as safely as possible. They still can do amazing things, and they probably still are the best military on the planet. That's not...
George, I say this, by the way, as not someone who is a Trump supporter. I say this as someone whose business it is to analyze campaigns and elections and politics and explain what's going on. And if I were at the table as a Trump strategist, that's what I'd say. If I were at the table as a Clinton strategist, I would say, keep it on. Keep it going. Don't let this con stuff rest. Keep calling into mind Trump's questions about whether Trump understands the Constitution. You have to raise his negatives sizably above yours. It's the only strategy you have for victory. Because if you want to explain to the American people that you are going to continue the work of the Obama administration, bear in mind that, pick a poll, roughly 2/3 of the country says that we are headed in the wrong direction versus only about 20% who say we're on the right track.
Right.
Which is her biggest weakness and Trump's biggest opening.
Right. Well, so the way I look at this is when he's talking about things that matter to Americans, like jobs and national security and safety and those kinds of issues, rebuilding our military, he's talking about issues that matter to Americans and that Americans care about. And I also think there are issues that they don't perceive that Hillary will do very well on. But when he talks about this guy, Mr. Khan, and there's lots of things, distractions you can say about him. I realize if you look at his dossier, he's not quite the... But that's a losing argument to me. The bottom line is he basically tells an American, I don't care about your problems. I want you to worry about mine.
Which is sort of Hillary's slogan, I'm with her, versus Trump who says, I stand with you. But there's another salient point here, that with very few exceptions, they can't cover what you don't say. And Donald Trump ought to write that on an index card and put it on the mirror so he can stare at it while he's shaving every morning.
Absolutely. Well, Peter, we've got to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to continue this conversation because... and I like your role as a person who, if you were in the Trump camp, how you would advise them, and if you were in the Hillary camp, how you'd advise them, because our listeners will, get a good sense of how this is playing out and why that both sides are doing what they're doing. But I just want to let everyone know that you're listening to Conservative Commandos radio program. This is WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia. And, of course, you can listen to us around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AMFM 24/7, all .coms. Don't go away. J.D. Manier and I and Peter Roth will be right back.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I
Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who are directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity, since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back. This is George Landreth with J.D. Manier. We're your hosts on the Conservative Commandos radio program, and we have as our special guest Peter Roth. He is a contributing editor at the U.S. News and World Report. He's written at United Press International. He's a senior fellow with Frontiers of Freedom and other groups as well. You can follow him on Twitter. He's a prolific writer and very insightful. He has an encyclopedic mind. Often you will hear him compare different campaigns and different things that I always find very helpful and insightful, and wish I had remembered those things. But anyhow, you can follow him on Twitter at Peter Roth. That's Peter and then R-O-F-F. And, of course, if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, ccrshow.com. At 1 p.m., you can log on to roarradio.net. At 9 p.m., highplainsdailynews.com. And at midnight, redstatetalkradio.com. And with a phone and this number, 832-999-1199, you can always listen to Conservative Commandos live. All righty. I think that...
you forgot usnews.com,
usnews.com,
usnews.com.
Excellent.
If you want to read my article.
That is... Oh, absolutely.
It would help.
Peter, aside from his Twitter account at Peter Roth, just go to usnews.com. He writes there several times a week, so you could check there virtually every day, and you'll find something very interesting. So I have to tell our listeners, I always make a point of reading what Peter has to say because I always find it educational, and I feel smarter after I've read something he's written. Okay, JD, pardon me?
Not to mention I make you.
That's right. You make me read them. No, you're actually a believer in free will. I know that for a fact. But anyhow, JD, I think you had a question/comment that you had from a listener or someone that had emailed you.
Peter, it's amazing, but a few hours ago I received, and I'm not going to name this person, he's a Border Patrol agent. He works for ICE. And this is his comments. He says, I respect Captain Khan's gave his life in service to this nation. I'm sorry for the parents that lost their son. He goes, but the parents are either misguided or plainly wrong to capitalize on their loss in a twisted interpretation of Mr. Trump's call to carefully vet new applicants for admission to the United States. Mr. Trump remarks were not meant to be a blanket rebuke of American Muslims at all, but rather a rebuke of those who refuse to acknowledge clear and present danger. And we're almost done. He says, I now have 150 or more undocumented cases a day showing up here. He goes, the masses and masses are just coming across, given a free pass at the border to go wherever they want. We basically have open borders. It's almost a reality.
Well,
just a point. I'm just pointing that out here, what you're talking about.
I think that plays to the strength of Trump's message. If he felt he needed to, someone needed to take Mr. Khan on. There are a number of congressmen who have endorsed Donald Trump who probably cheerfully would have responded to that assignment. It's not his job to counterpunch everybody who says something unpleasant about him. It's his job to demonstrate to the American people that he has the temperament necessary to be president of the United States.
I totally agree.
Now, I happen to think there are a number of things about
the
Mr.
union
Khan.
down there. They have endorsed Donald Trump, and they are feeling the heat, and they see him as a potential savior.
Absolutely. There are a number of things about Mr. Khan that I think that I think people ought to be curious about, including the fact that as an immigration lawyer who specializes in helping Muslims and Muslim families come to the United States, and there's nothing empirically wrong with that. That if Trump were to close off the United States to immigration by Muslims, that would have a severe impact on Mr. Khan's business model. So the sacrifice of his son aside, and I think you can put it aside, because this is a volunteer army. His son was not drafted. His son was not forced to go. But the sacrifice aside, this would be bad for Mr. Khan's business. And there's no Republican in the world who could get away with that, because that would be the first thing that any reporter worth his salt, including me, would point out about some unknown person who stood up at the Republican National Convention and made a passionate speech and about their dead child as pertains to public policy. And by the way, while we're at that, on this line of argument, let's talk about the horrible things that have been said about Pat Smith and Charles Woods, whose sons were killed by ISIS terrorists at Benghazi. They've been degraded, they've been dismissed, they've been devalued.
They've been called liars.
They both say that Hillary Clinton lied to their face while they were at Dover Air Force Base. I think it was Dover Air Force Base, to retrieve the bodies when they came back from Libya. And I think Charles himself, or Pat Smith herself, has said this, that the media has treated us like dirt.
Well, the odd thing, too, is Hillary maintains that she didn't say that to them, but if she didn't, then she was truthful to them while lying to the public, because then in her speech, 2 seconds later, she went on and on and on about the movie there at the air base. So her denials are completely just not believable, because the people are saying to us that she said to us personally what she also is telling you in the press, publicly.
She said to us what she said to you, but more personally and more emphatically. And now we're talking about 3 people, all of whom have lost sons as a result of, ultimately, of President Bush's decision to invade Iraq, which is where all of this started. Now, Hillary voted for that war. Donald Trump didn't vote for that war. Donald Trump wasn't in this. Donald Trump says he wasn't for the war. Now, there's some people who say they have documented that he was, but he's certainly been resolute in his statements of late that it was a bad idea. And that's something else that people don't want to bring up in this whole conversation. And all these people who are demanding that Trump apologize to Mr. and Mrs. Khan, and I'm not quite sure what it is he's supposed to apologize for. I know there's some people out there who have an idea what that is, and it would appreciate it if somebody would let me know what that is.
Right.
Because Trump certainly didn't dishonor the sacrifice that their son made.
Right. Absolutely. Quick question. We've got to go in the next minute, but I just wanted to ask you, do you see this as a narrative that can be changed, or do you see this as something that is going to dominate throughout the month of August?
Oh, it can absolutely be changed. Ronald Reagan was behind Jimmy Carter until the middle of October in 1980, because people thought that Reagan wasn't presidential, that Reagan was too unbalanced to be trusted with control of our nuclear weapons. I remember the Democrats running ads saying, with ordinary citizens all saying, I don't like Reagan, he shoots from the hip. He shoots from the hip. He shoots from the hip. Which I suppose implies that he's too quick to go to the military option. Well, as far as I know, Hillary Clinton has supported more military engagements than Donald Trump. I think she's 10 for 6. There were 6 she supported that she got, and there were 4 more she wanted that she didn't get.
Interesting. Well, Peter, our time is up, but if folks want to follow your work, obviously your Twitter is @PeterRoth, and you can also read your work at U.S. News and World Report, right?
USNews.com, USNews.com, USNews.com.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter, for being with us. We really appreciate it. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360. That's our flagship station in Philadelphia. And, of course, around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM/FM 24/7, all.coms. Don't go away. JD and I will be back with our next guest.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions.
We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who are directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
If you're in a crash and have little cash, come to AJ Auto Body. We handle insurance claims fast, and repairs are guaranteed to last at AJ Auto Body. Come check us out, and without a doubt, you'll be satisfied. That's AJ Auto Body, 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. Family owned and operated for 30 years. We are a fully licensed and insured auto repair facility located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. We are your friend in the business. So stop in for a free estimate or call us at 856-251-0096. Check us out on the web at www.ajautobody.net. That's where you'll find our specials, discounts, and coupons. For all your car needs, come to AJ Auto Body, located at 1345 Delsey Drive in Deptford, New Jersey. 856-251-0096.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back. This is George Landreth and J.D. Manier. We are your hosts today of the Conservative Commandos radio program. Rick Trader is out today, but he will be back, never fear. And J.D. and I are both very pleased to be able to be here today with you. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. And after 1 p.m., you can log on to roarradio.net. After 9 p.m., you can log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And after midnight, at redstatetalkradio.com. And with a phone on this number, 832-999-1199, you can listen to the program anytime, live. Well, we have our next guest with us, and J.D., the honor of introducing him goes to you.
Dr. Samuel Gregg is research director at the Acton Institute, and he's the author of many books, including Economic Thinking for the Theologically Minded, 2001, On Ordered Liberty, 2003, his prize-winning The Commercial Society in 2007, The Modern Papacy, 2009, Wilhelm Röpke's Political Economy in 2010, and Becoming Europe, 2013. Several of his works have been translated into a variety of languages. Welcome to the Conservative Commando Radio Show, Dr. Gregg.
Thank you for having me on. It's good to be with you.
I was reading your article titled, No, Pope Francis, the Economy Doesn't Cause Terrorism, and it looks like the Pope, Obama State Department, and to some degree former President Bush held to this notion terrorism is spawned by the lack of economic opportunity. Please speak to that.
Well, it's, I think, a very easy, maybe even lazy approach to say that most of the world's problems are economic, that if we want to understand why people are blowing themselves up on other people or doing terrible things like cutting people's throats of priests, shooting nuns in the head, etc., it's very tempting and very, in a way, simplistic to say, well, this must be because of poverty. This must be because of lack of economic opportunity. And Pope Francis, when he was flying back from Poland after World Youth Day, more or less said that the terrorism's roots lie in the global economy. Well, I did a bit of research on this subject, and what I concluded very quickly, and this is very easy to find out, that there's actually very little evidence that suggests that. In fact, most of the available evidence suggests that there's almost no relationship between economic poverty and terrorism. And this is a position that's been articulated by a number of conservative researchers, but even some left-wing researchers have come up with more or less the same conclusion and said, if you want to understand why people turn to terrorism, economics or poverty or lack of economic opportunity are not the reasons why people turn to terrorism. And so these studies looked at groups such as Hezbollah, Palestinian terrorists, but also outside the Muslim world, groups like the Red Brigades in Italy, the Baader Meinhof gang, even hate groups like the Ku Klux Klan in the United States. And what they all find is that there's almost no relationship between poverty and terrorism. So most terrorists, for example, they are usually well-educated. Many of them come from middle-class or upper-class families. They're not suffering from economic deprivation, etc., etc. So the empirical evidence, the research that's been done into this subject shows very clearly that there's no correlation between poverty and terrorism. Now, the causes of terrorism are many, but to attribute it to poverty or lack of economic opportunity is simply incorrect. And I think what we should be focusing upon when it comes to Islamic terrorism is that we need to take the religion seriously. Now, most Muslims throughout the world are peaceful people. They're not violent people. They're certainly not terrorists, etc., etc. But it is the case that Islamist terrorists are engaging in terrorism because of what they believe about their religion. And to pretend that religion has nothing to do with Islamic terrorism, or that it's somehow marginal, or that it's not so important, then I think you basically end up living in a type of unreality. And that, of course, is the approach which dominates a lot of thinking among Western governments at the moment, that we can't talk about the Islamic side of Islamic terrorism. People will come up with things like, no, Islam is a religion of peace. Well, if you talk to the really good scholars of this subject, they'll say, no, that's actually not the case. We need to take the claims that groups like ISIS make about themselves much more seriously. They actually really do believe what they're saying. And to say that religion is not so important or that religion is somehow marginal to the question of Islamic terrorism, I think means you're not taking Islam seriously, and you're not doing credit to Muslims either.
Well, I totally agree. I was reading today another David Francis, the National Bureau of Economic Research, and he's backing up exactly what you're saying. Economists find a link between low incomes and property crime, but you just don't see Americans robbing convenience stores wearing suicide vests. And
right, and so, for example, if poverty was the cause, let's say poverty was a major cause of terrorism, then we would expect, for the past few decades, hundreds of people in places like particular African countries or India or the eastern parts of rural China to be engaging in all sorts of terroristic acts. But they're not. So it can't be the economy. And I think if you try, because what this means is that you start to think that there are materialistic solutions to terrorism. If only we give them enough stuff, if only they have more economic opportunity, terrorism will go away. No, that will not deal with the problem. So the other problem is that not only is the economic explanation for terrorism not true, trying to solve it economically is not actually going to fix the problem.
We're coming up against a hard break, Dr. Gray. Can you hold with us just a couple seconds and a couple minutes?
Sure, no problem.
And we'd like to finish this thought right up when we get back. And this is J.D. Manier and George Landreth coming to you live from the Concerted Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM/FM 24/7.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Since 2011, we have been calling for a national commitment from all Americans to participate in an annual event to honor all of the victims and their families who suffered during and after the most devastating event to ever take place on American soil. We all remember those horrible scenes of destruction on September 11th, 2001 that unfolded right before our eyes, either up front or on television. We continue to ask every American to participate in the united action of prayer, which is simply to stop whatever you are doing at precisely 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. to either observe 1 minute of silence or to offer a prayer to honor the memory of those who were directly affected by this unforgettable scene of destruction. Please include a prayer of thanks for living in a country where even something as horrific as 9/11 could not weaken our spirit. This year, we would like to ask one more thing as a show of unity, since we are still fighting with the enemy who caused the 9/11 tragedy. Would you display the flag for the day at your home, on your car, bike, or anywhere you can display Old Glory? Let's show our enemies that we can still unite in our love for our country.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or at noon, log on to roarradio.net. At 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. Or at midnight, log on to redstatetalkradio.com. You can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We're speaking with Dr. Samuel Gregg, talking about the Pope Francis's comments that the economy doesn't cause terrorism. And Dr. Gregg, our host, George Landreth, he's got a couple questions for you. I want to pass it over to George.
Dr. Gregg, we appreciate you being on the show. One of the things that I've always found interesting is that people want to find an economic rationale behind everything that happens. And I think sometimes people's values are a greater motivator in how they behave. Because, for example, if it's just money that motivates me, then that would imply that if I'm walking down the street and I see someone in a wheelchair and I don't see anybody else around me, so I'm pretty sure I can get away with it, the money driving it would be I would just then go hold that person up and take their money and run off and, quote, get away with it. But my values actually would override that and prevent me from doing that. And I've often wondered why it is that it seems so often the left does not appreciate the important role that values plays in our society or in any society. And it's not just in terrorism. It seems in all sorts of things. They want very much to have values be irrelevant, at least as I see it.
Yes.
I'm just curious
I think
you think there's some truth to that and why that might be.
Well, I think there's a number of reasons. One is that the left is fundamentally relativistic. That's one thing. So one person's values are as good as one another, and I think they generally take those sorts of things far less seriously than they take, for example, economic explanations, or more precisely, materialist explanations, because they're basically looking for an explanation of why people behave in certain ways, but they don't want to attribute responsibility to them. So when you have a sort of value set, let's say it's a religion like Islam or whatever, a philosophical position, then you will generally try and act in accordance with those. But the left doesn't take religion seriously, the left doesn't take a serious philosophy seriously. So what you're left with then is, okay, people are doing things that they're not really responsible for. There must be some materialistic explanation for that, and we find that in economics. But as I said, right at the beginning of this discussion, when it comes to the issue of terrorism, when Pope Francis more or less said the global economy, the state of the global economy is responsible for terrorism, there's just so much empirical evidence that says no, the economy has very little to do with terrorism. Now, Pope Francis is not a leftist. He's clearly a Christian and things, and all those good things. But there's a very common tendency, even outside sections of the left, to think that economic explanations are the only type of explanations that make sense. And I think that's because we don't take people's value systems seriously. So, for example, most terrorists in many groups today come from quite wealthy backgrounds. Many of them are very well educated. Why are they doing what they're doing? They're not doing it because they need the money. They're doing it because they believe in certain things. Those things might be crazy and wrong, but they certainly believe in certain things. And that, I think, is something the left, for all sorts of strange reasons, just isn't willing to take seriously.
Interesting.
This is JD again, Dr. Gregg. Now, back to the Pope, I read your article. He stated true Islam and the proper interpretation of the Quran oppose all violence.
Well, he's clearly
quite a stretch.
Incorrect in that regard, right? Because, and in fact, in that same article, I quoted two very eminent Catholic thinkers who have written and spoken extensively about this very issue, and they say more or less, no, there is a dimension of Islam that lends itself to violence, and pretending it doesn't is no service to anyone, least of all Muslims, right? Because if we go around saying to people, look, your religion is fundamentally peaceful, when it's not, then you're not just not telling them the truth. We also have an issue with how we deal with some of these problems, because if we treat the whole issue of terrorism as purely an economic matter, we're going to make a lot of mistakes when it comes to fighting this problem. We're also going to spend a lot of money in areas where it's just going to be very, very ineffective. So many countries in the West are pouring money into many countries in the Middle East in an effort to try and eradicate poverty, etc., etc. But you know what? It doesn't have any effect upon the rise of terrorism. So the sooner we sort out the cause and effect things of these issues, the better.
Dr. Greg, this is George Landreth again. One of the things that I've noticed in some of my studies in economics is that people try to figure out, like, how did America become economically powerful, or when England was a world economic power, how did it become powerful? And I read a study once, and it was years ago, but basically it concluded that it wasn't natural resources, it wasn't all these things that people usually attribute it to. It came down to some fundamentals, which they did not say, but I think I would, which came to values. They talked about the ability to make and keep contracts, the ability to, a work ethic, and these things. And to me, those are values. I'm the father of 7 children, and I've tried to teach my children that it is the right thing to do to work hard. That work in and of itself has redeeming social value, and that it's your goal shouldn't be to get rich quickly so you can just engage in leisure all the time. That there's we ought to do good things, and anyhow. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, it seems to me that values don't just help us understand, and my argument is not just terrorism, but society. And I would argue you see America stumbling right now a bit, and I would argue our values aren't quite what they used to be.
Yes, that's certainly the case. I think you find that it's very clear that if you want to look for why
we're much more litigious. We aren't as willing to keep our word, in other words, keep contracts, and so we waste resources.
Yeah, no, I think we make a lot of mistakes when it comes to thinking about these issues, because we need to take very seriously the idea that there are people who have values, and values actually make a difference, and the wrong set of values will also make a difference. Now, you also need institutions. So, for example, with all those good things you mentioned, good work ethic, keeping your promises, etc., etc., you also need good institutions like limited government and rule of law, etc., etc. And that's all very important. So I think you need both of those things. So if you don't have the right institutions, you have a problem. If you don't have the right values, you also have a problem. But if you don't have the right values, I guarantee that the institutions will go bad as well. In America, we've been very lucky that we've had the right institutions for quite some time now. But when the values start to decline or change in less than desirable ways, then you'll find the institutions start to corrode as well. And I think that's pretty much what's happening now.
Exactly, and I agree with you at the institutions. Those are important. I've taught constitutional law, and I'm a big believer that the founders were really, really either extraordinarily lucky or very intelligent, and that they created the system that they did because it gave the institution side of what you're talking about, and then obviously hope that the people would provide the values.
Right. And when the values go away, the institutions start to corrode, and that's a problem. That's more or less, I think, what we're facing in much of the United States today.
That I think is the sad truth. Why do you think, you mentioned earlier that you thought that often the left is somewhat focused on relativism, which I think is true. Is that the reason you think that the values get forgotten, is because its values imply some sort of absolute...
Values imply that there is truth, right? And that some things are good and some things are not good. So entrepreneurship and hard work is good. Passivity and laziness are not good. Work ethic is good. Laziness is not good. Prudence is good. recklessness, that means recklessness is bad. Courage is good. That means that cowardice is bad. So all those things, I think you're right, because when you start to talk about values, or let's call them moral goods, which I think is, or virtues even, there's the phrases I prefer to use, then that implies that there are some commitments of belief and ideas that are not so good. So we believe in freedom, which means we think that the values of Nazism and communism are not just inefficient, but they're also wrong. This is why I think the left tries to basically wash these things away, because they know that that's the most effective way of breaking down resistance to many of their programs.
Very good. Dr. Greg, how can folks follow your work? What's the best way for them to keep in touch with the things that you're doing? You have been very insightful. And
well, I think you'll go to the Acton Institute's website, acton.org, or you can simply go to my Amazon site, and there's plenty of the books that I've written there in which I discuss many of the issues that we've talked about today.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you spending your time with us. This has been, like I said, just incredibly insightful. Our
My
time
pleasure.
is up.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. We want to thank Dr. Greg. We want to thank our listeners. We particularly want to thank John Forsyth, who's made all the technology work so smoothly. JD, it's been great to be with you today. And so we've got to sign off. Just want to tell everyone to remember, always tune in. It's our goal to bring you the best information possible and help you be an informed citizen.